Hello, I'm Caryn Mirriam-Goldberg, and welcome to Your Calling, Your Livelihood, Your Life. This first week, I wanted to talk just a little bit about callings. Although the term is often relegated, to the priesthood and religious callings, I believe that each moment in our lives has its own calling. And if we listen carefully to ourselves, to what we are feeling in our own hearts, what we are discerning in our minds, what we are observing in the world around us, we can find great guidance in how to live with utmost meaning and connection and creativity. I like what Greg Leroy says about how a calling is a conversation. It's not just a flash of lightning and our lives suddenly change, but it's more of a dialogue between you and what's calling to you. And as a way to kind of illustrate where I'm coming from on this, I wanted to share with you some of what's called to me in my life, or more accurately, some of what I've been in conversation with. When I was very young, I had an innate connection to the earth and the sky, particularly to wind and trees. It always spoke to me of something sacred. It helped me to feel more alive, more grounded, and it gave me great guidance from then on throughout my life. I consider that a lifelong conversation. As I grew up, I started drawing like crazy, and making art was just a calling from the get-go. I think I'm one of those people who's hardwired to make something on a regular basis, whether it's beading or collaging or writing something or even playing the piano, in order to just feel alive. And it took the form of visual arts until I was about 14 and I switched on a dime to writing. And today I immerse myself in writing still, but also in all kinds of visual arts and in playing several instruments, in singing loudly in the car when no one's looking, in all of this, because making something and being in dialogue with the creative that way is another conversation that I'm having with my life. And I keep looking this way because I have my notes here. I've always felt a calling to travel, to explore new places, and in part because of my family situation, and in part because I wanted to live in a place where I could connect more with the earth and sky. I ended up moving very far from home, finding that where I belonged was the Midwest. And in fact, I ended up in Lawrence, Kansas, because of a very specific and eloquent call that I just couldn't ignore. I was in Lawrence, probably about 1982, one late spring day, and it was my first time there, and I was staying at the friend of a friend's house, walking up the stairs to that house, a small bungalow in the east side of our town, and I suddenly felt what I can only describe as like a voice right over my right shoulder that just said, "This is your home, this is it." And the next day I met the man who became my husband and many of the people who have become my closest friends. And so that was a conversation started in somewhat of a dramatic way for me, but a conversation that's gone on and on and on, and has given me so much in terms of community and sense of place. I knew that I wanted to write, but I didn't really know much about teaching until, as a way to support my writing gig and my graduate school, I started teaching at the University of Kansas. And within a few days I knew this was another conversation that would keep unfolding my whole life. This was hard for me, and wonderful, and excruciating, and ecstatic, and this is where I wanted to go and needed to go and keep learning from as things unfold. As I taught at Goddard College eventually, I felt a very clear calling to found a program within a program called Transformative Language Arts, a way for writers, musicians, people in theater, people who perform or write or do anything with our words, tell stories, lead workshops for at-risk populations, and so on, to make a living by serving their communities and by helping others discover what the written, spoken, and sung word can bring to us when it comes to hearing, heeding, and staying in conversation with our own native voices. One of the more recent callings in the last 5 years was to teach yoga, which has been one of the more surprising callings of my life, particularly because in my 20s and 30s when I tried yoga, well, it kind of made me just want to throw up. Didn't really work for me. And then I discovered that this was one of the great loves of my life. And I actually said to a therapist, I know this is going to sound strange, but I think I want to become a yoga teacher. I was terrified to say it out loud. I was shocked when she responded, "Of course you do," and when many close to me reinforced that message. I completed teacher training 2 years ago, and I now teach a weekly class, which helps me to deepen my conversation with my own body, but also to work with others in terms of how we can become more at home in our bodies and in our voices. So those are some of my callings, and what I invite you to do for this first week is to make a list of what you have felt so called to do. What conversations have unfolded for you in your life, in your family, in your workplace. Not so small an omission, I forgot to say I've been in a calling as a mother for many, many years. In fact, for almost 23 years. And as I speak these words to the camera, my almost 23-year-old son is right behind it, helping film me. And this has been an ongoing conversation of what it means to help socialize and introduce another human to the world, and to find out about the deep and wild love of being part of a family. So please feel free to make a list of your callings, your conversations with what's called, what's happened when you listened, what's happened when you've turned away, and what you feel calling right now. And you can certainly share this right where you share your responses to the writing prompts. Welcome again to our class. So glad to be with you from afar, but also up close. Thank you.